Am I the only one who keeps having déjà vu? The Trudeau Liberals election campaign in 2021 is remarkably similar, verging on identical to the one they ran in 2019. This is strange for two reasons. One, a heck of a lot has happened since 2019, like a global pandemic, several civil rights movements, a reckoning on residential schools, and a full-blown housing crisis. The list goes on. You'd think the Liberals would put a bit more effort in to come up with unique, innovative solutions for this uniquely tumultuous time. Second, running on a very similar platform, bringing up the same old wedge issues and making the same old speeches highlights exactly how few of their past policy promises actually became reality. Simply put, we can't move on to new issues because they never addressed the old ones. As a result, the election news cycle feels like a less funny version of Groundhog Day. This week, we're reliving the climate change edition. At a Quebec campaign stop, the Liberal leader performed a years-old shtick we've seen many times before, the one where he attempts to strike fear into the hearts of young voters who may not remember what climate policy was like under quote-unquote the Harper era. But Harper's climate policies are neither here nor there in 2021. Campaigning against the track record of a man who hasn't been in power in 6 years is practically the definition of grasping at straws. Trudeau clearly doesn't feel confident enough to attack Erin O'Toole directly on this, so instead he gestures at a behind-the-scenes boogeyman. However, since Trudeau brought it up, let's talk about those Harper climate policies he calls half measures. If this is really how he feels, why did the Liberals adopt Harper's greenhouse gas reduction targets once in office? His party claims these are a floor and not a ceiling, but as it stands, they're not even going to make it out of the basement. Trudeau says he's on track to reduce emissions by 30% below 2005 levels by 2030, and he also promises to exceed those goals. But reports issued by his own government say it's not going to happen. Environment and Climate Change Canada say that even under a fantasy best-case scenario, one that takes into account policies under development but not yet in place, Canada's emissions in 2030 will only be 19% below 2005 levels. And while we're at it, what happened to that 2019 promise to Greta Thunberg to plant 2 billion trees? He repeated the promise again in his 2020 speech from the throne and adjusted it to only 1 billion trees by 2028, right before the current campaign. Yet there's still no realistic plan to achieve this. If the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior, then any Liberal climate promises should be treated with extreme skepticism. 6 years into governing, Trudeau should be able to run on his own merits and clearly point at climate change success stories. He should also be willing and eager to debate these issues with other candidates. That he's instead using a former Prime Minister as a punching bag doesn't bode well for those who truly care about environmental change.